Agni Zotis here with the Educators Edition and Make Kids Transform. Today, we're beyond thrilled to have a very close and very dear friend of mine, Chris Keriazis, and he's been my personal and dear friend for 35 years since we started college a while ago. And he's an educator now, and I just love his journey. And I'm so thrilled that he will share that with us. Chris, welcome so much. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just like, I have so much love for you because you're a personal friend, but also because I'm thrilled that you're in education, uh, because it didn't start out like that. Right. So you could tell us about it, but I know you personally, and I know for a fact that you're doing justice to those teens that you're working with, because of who you are, in essence, and how you hold yourself and what you've been through in the world. That I think it's a remarkable way and information of bringing. So please, and also before we start, I want to say something that in this podcast and the way I view educators is as superheroes, and they either have the ability to inspire and really be these incredible superheroes for youth and open up their perspectives, or they could be super villains and really destroy young to life. Uh, so I'm a real believer. I'm like, let's support educators to make them better,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And
It's true.
you're my superhero, so please.
Well, thank you, Agni.
How did you get into it? Tell us about you, if you don't mind. Whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I was an aspiring writer in my early days. I love literature. I love literature. When we went to Hunter College, I was that was my major, creative writing, media studies, and I loved it. I loved writing short stories, poetry, things of that nature. And I was aspired to one day write that, the great American novel, which I'm still working on, by the way. But yeah, so I graduated Hunter College back in whatever 95 or something like that, and instead of going towards education, that wasn't my first path. My first path was to work in the insurance industry. So I worked in the Bronx for many years in the storefront with my father, selling personal lines insurance. And, I made a lot of connections in that regard. People, the aspect of selling insurance wasn't really the business side. I was never a good businessman. It was more, making connections with people, and I think that's what, drew people to me because they knew that I wasn't really full of crap, that I was trying to sincerely help. And, yeah, and I think that's always been my pathway to be of service of some kind, right? So yeah, the profits, you try to build a book of business in the insurance industry, right? You try to sell. But at the same time, I used to enjoy the conversations. I used to get to know my clients and things of that nature. So I would try to help them the best I could. I wouldn't steer them wrong. So, uh, what next? Um, I had an epiphany. I was selling insurance and I looked at my feet, and looked at my I looked at my worldview and I was like, what am I doing? Right? It became old. I became very tired of the bustle, right? Of just selling. Um, so I so I decided to get into education. So it was a career change. My went back for my master's degree in education back in '07, I think. And no, when Jack was born, when my first son was born, I decided to change. And I got my master's degree and became a teacher in back in '09.
Where do you
But
teach?
in Yeah, I started teaching in New York City, Department of Education, I taught in the Bronx for 10 years. The first My first assignment was in Lehman High School in the Northeast Bronx. I taught there for 2 years. English. I'm an ELA teacher. I'm an English language artist. So I taught ELA 2 years at Lehman High School, and then I moved to the South Bronx. That school closed because of Bloomberg's policies, um, which he was really during that time period in New York City. They were closing all the big schools, and I was like, basically, they were cutting up the big schools into smaller schools. I don't know if you're familiar with that
I'm
policy.
not.
They-
I would like you to
Yeah.
share with us, please.
Bloomberg was a businessman, right? So he tried to incorporate a business model for schools. He wanted to run them as businesses. So each big building, the big building that housed, like Lehman, for instance, housed about 4,000 students, and they broke Lehman up into four different little schools, small learning communities, SLCs. And during the transition, I was basically let go. So I had to find a new position. And I found a small school in the South Bronx, 161st and 3rd Avenue, Patona Park. Um the poorest congressional district in America, basically. So yeah, the poorest congressional district in the US. So I taught there for 8 years. Um I taught ELA there for 8 years, and I had a really great experiences there. Um It was tough. The kids that were coming to me didn't have much, obviously they're coming from that district. But, despite all the hardships, there were some really beautiful success stories, right? Um, I think in education, if you come with the mindset of service, you're trying to help others, right? You can't get into education, thinking that, it's very selfish to think that, oh, I can affect change on this, you know, on this doer of good, That's not, I thought that in the beginning, or that I could actually, be this, I don't know, this power of example for these poor kids, and it's just not like that. The only way that you can get to people, seriously, the only way that you can get to students, right, is to build trust,
Yes.
right? So, yeah, it's the most important thing, right? So, and you don't tell, you show. So I know you're an artist. This is your business, right? You show people, your imagination, right? And I think that art and education is it's very similar, right? I create every day. I I'm a problem solver, right? I don't like to live in the what ifs, right? The idea is to build a pathway, right, or a ramp for the kids who aren't getting it to understand the concept, or to build on a skill, you know. So I'm very much my focus has always been you know in the problem solver, like how can I get to this one kid who's just falling so far behind, you know. Yeah, we have 34 other kids or 33 other kids in the class, but you know we're not. The powers that be make us believe that we have to differentiate, right? That you have to make sure that all kids, learn, because kids learn differently, and we all have to build ramps, and success stories, right? So for a teacher to espouse that idea, right, you really have to get on the ground with them, right? You have to look them in the eyes. You can't have this idea that you have my word is the only word in the room, right? So you have to first listen, you have to first listen to them, and understand where they're coming from, and then to build that trust, right? So it's the first few months of a year, of a class year, particularly in the South Bronx, was basically me just building relationships, right? Building this trust with them, right? And then of course figuring out where they are, what level they are, right? But I'm in the when the problem arises, I don't like to just sit in it. I have to figure out solutions. I'm a solution person, and that's my driving force throughout my career in education. The 15 years that I've been doing, the 16 years, 15 years. This will be the 16th year. Is the solutions, right? What's the solution? So yeah, well, you have a stubborn kid. You have a kid who's reading on a first grade level, right, in the 10th grade. All right. Well, what can I do to help him or to help her? You know, and yeah, so that's been my journey, really. Like coming from the place of service and understanding, uh, looking at a problem and determining the solution. Right.
I
So
love
in
that.
the end, yeah, that's really my approach to education. Now, of course, there's so many different ways to go about this, right? And there's so many theories that are out there. People, I have my own philosophy, but there's so many people, so many different voices that are out there trying to tell you, well, this is the solution. This is how you reach all the kids. And no, it's a personal journey for every teacher. And if you read a book, and somebody tells you their philosophy, that's great. You can try to espouse that philosophy. You can try, right? And by all means, but you have to figure out your own. There's no book of rules, right? There's no blueprint in education.
But you hit
Yeah.
very important points. For one, my most favorite quote is, I don't want to mess it up. It's the road to hell is paved by good intentions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Number one, right? Number two, like something that's really resonating that you spoke about, because this works for education or any relationship. Trust,
Trust. Trust.
right?
Absolutely.
And these are fundamental factors for any relationship. But for an educator, that's what I do when I go in and teach mindfulness, right? For 14 years with either educators or youth. It's like you go in and there's gotta be trust, because if they just think you're sitting there telling them, sit down, do this, I read a book, I know better, some theory BS. That's not, maybe it works for somebody else, but like you said, this is a very personalized
Yeah. This is not
experience.
business. That's why the whole Bloomberg experience really opened my eyes. And well, I realized that I didn't get into this. I left business, right? School is not a business. Teaching is not a business. Wherever the people try to make it a business, right? The
Of course.
educators who are people on the educators who are on with their boots on the ground are not selling policies, right? We're trying to build this trust. We're trying to teach them pivotal skills. Like it's not the skills that they're going to need not only to in post secondary education in college, but they're going to need in life.
Of course.
Right? For me as an educator, as an ELA educator, right? I teach literacy. I teach literacy skills, right? And I also teach creative writing, right? So I mean, as an English teacher, now I'm gonna switch. I'll put on the English teacher hat instead of the educator hat. Like, specifically as an English teacher, right? I try to teach kids how to find their voice, right? And then to try, and it's so hard to express your voice on paper is extremely difficult, right? So if you ever read something, you say, "Oh, I can hear your voice," right? That is one of the hardest things to do, right?
Like,
Now you can do that. Yeah, you can do that in academic writing, and you can, of course, do it in creative writing. But the key first is to build the foundation, right? If the kids are reading at such a low level, you have to find something that they will enjoy to read, right? So you have to find different ways that they'll build this literacy, right? So literacy is, the trifecta, right? First we speak, we listen, we read, we write. So in every aspect of literacy, you try to build those skills up, right? So much so that it becomes a joy for them, right? It becomes a joyful experience. Because anybody worth their salt, right? Nobody does anything with passion unless it brings them joy.
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So, so for me, my joy comes in the experience of watching a kid grow, watching a student grow, right? So, like in the beginning of the year, I'll have a student. Again, I'm teaching 11th grade for the last 4 years, but I taught ninth grade, I taught 10th grade, and 12th. I taught all the grades, right? And this last year, I taught AP. For 3 years, I taught AP language, which is what I love to teach, right? Because it's a little more elevated. But when I think back to my ICT classes, those are the integrated teaching, with my kids who have 504s, who have special needs and things of that nature. Those are some of my most joyous experiences. Um, grade level who is at a 504 who has difficulty writing, you know, and I can see their growth. It's absolutely joyful for me. And I have to express that to them that you just brought me such joy. Like look at what you've
Right.
done,
Right.
This is the fruit of your labor. Like, yeah, if you they love that, It's like even my 12th graders love when I put a smiley face on their writing, you know what I mean? Like they love like I swear to God, like they love stickers. 18-year-olds, if you put a sticker on their friggin' work, they're like they love it. So don't let the high school, the grade school. That's not just a grade school thing, right? No, no. Stickers work in high school.
Yeah. I like stickers, man. I like smiley faces stuff.
Good job, right? Yeah, totally. I heard
It's
I can stamp it.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, yes, it's like that's how it starts of honoring. So now we're talking about honoring our individuality, right?
Yeah,
And when we're talking about these communities that have these, most of these kids have never been seen from their parents, from educators, from anybody. The moment, and this is for anybody, right? So when you celebrate your own, when somebody like you celebrates this voice that came out, of course it's going to empower them, right? And this is a tool for life, Chris, right? Isn't it?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's absolutely. It resonates in all parts of all aspects of life, right? So it's like the universe acknowledging, your creativity, you know. And sometimes, I'm a spiritual person. Sometimes I think that a higher power, works through other people, right? So, what is it? When you pray for patience, you'll be lucky if you get caught in traffic, right? That way you can practice. You know what I'm saying? Right. So if you pray to make a difference, right? I want to be a channel, an instrument of peace, right? I want to be somebody that's a difference maker. Guess what? That little young lady, who's reading on her first grade level, who's 16, she comes into your room, So then you have an opportunity, right? Now you're stuck in traffic. Well, what are you gonna do? You know?
It's just amazing, because like through my foundation, I've been involved in New York and also in India, and it's easy to think that in India they don't have education. It's mind blowing to know that in the United States, New York City, right here, um, the Bronx or whatever it is, many schools in the city, many schools, um, they don't. I mean, I know for myself, as a dyslexic going through the school, I didn't have that.
Right. Yeah,
And
back in the 80s, I mean, it was different, right? Like think
it was different.
yeah, I mean, well, we've made strides. We try, right, to diagnose to, and then meet a student at their needs, right? So there's services that you can apply to kids with dyslexia or dysgraphia or, with attention deficit disorder. All these things, right? Part of your 504 plan. Did you have a 504 when you were growing up? Did you have
I mean, we had like, you're either stupid or you're not.
that talking about, right? They put you
And none of us went to school because it was a violence. Miss me. Said, people think that people, I mean, contrary to popular belief, not all white people are rich. People bush.
Well, I made a mistake. I said not all when you said not, and I finished the sentence by saying privileged. I scratched that from the record because there is white privilege. Absolutely.
There is white privilege, but you're growing up in ghettos and in
Yeah.
poor schools.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
Yeah. No, I know that. It's there's different factors. I know, of course. There's different factors. Well, that's the cloud of communal association, right? Like this society, the media, the cloud of media dysfunction, right? That addresses that gives everybody a label that you know that drives people to think that we're different, right? And that
Yeah,
like
exactly. Exactly.
oh,
Eh,
that's why it's so important for educators to teach critical thinking, right? You know, let's
Um,
to decipher when you're being had. Like we were street smart. Like I grew up in the Bronx. I was street smart. You know what I mean? Like seriously,
pretty man.
absolutely. Call up the op shop. I have references, right? You know what I'm saying? I have
Me
oh,
too.
one would somebody would might misconstrue it as wisdom, right? But
I think so. I think so.
I'm joking.
I think so. I mean, the empathy that you could bring in and compassion of understanding these kids.
You have living references, right? Like life experiences. Give me a break. So like I don't listen to the nonsense, right?
I,
But no, I know people, but society does, unfortunately, right?
society does, and people that didn't grow up like that do. So it's just our grouping, because we're trained like that. Uh,
We
you know that, it's like, oh, we're all like that. No, we're not. We're not. We're not all like that. Not everybody's like that. We're all different, but at the same time, we're all part of this society that doesn't force classism in one way or another. And it's okay. Something that you brought up that I really want us to go into, Chris, is critical thinking. Because I'm finding that systematically with social media, with the media that I find to be the biggest propaganda on the planet, um, critical thinking has become a rare commodity.
yeah, with the advent of social media and with the internet being accessible for everyone, there's so much misinformation out there, and there's so many people who are duped, right? Our kids, they come in and they have, they're looking at all these voices from across the land, right, with their own opinions, and you know, it's hard for them to find their own voice, in this cloud of abstraction. To find your own voice in this cloud of abstraction is it's very difficult. Um, but that's what we try to prepare them for.
Well, that's what you're talking about. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, when I say we, that's the people who I call brothers and sisters, right? The educators in the field, right? Who have an understanding of what their role is in a child's life.
Do you think all educators have that?
No, I mean, unfortunately, I would say in my experience, I would say good like 85 to 90% of educators, right? Maybe even more are coming from a place of love and of hope and caring, right? But you have your outliers, right? Who are, I guess, you have your outliers who are just phoning it in, who treat this as a job. With they punch their cards in, they punch their cards out. And this unfortunately, because of societal expectations, a lot of good teachers become jaded, because of
Yeah.
the misinformation and the blaming, right? And in some states, the taking away ba- book banning and blaming blaming the teacher for indoctrination. There's a whole slew there that are backwards. right? In terms of teaching history, in terms of listening to voices, American voices from all over the place, from different times and different places. So the idea to what is it called? To whitewash the truth, right? To dilute our true history and things of that nature, or to dilute voices, to remove voices from the conversation. It's absurd. It's absurd and it's a disservice, right? So I can see why educators are leaving in mass in certain states. They're not paid well, not paid well enough, and they're blamed for everything. You know, so there's that too.
But tremendous responsibility, right? Because the educator is not educating a subject. They're also babysitting, they're also facilitating a variety of threats,
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
psychological, physical issues. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
it's really I do believe um that whole system needs to be revamped in some ways, and that's my participation with AI of using it for the greater good. At least
Yeah. That's funny that you bring up AI as an English teacher, right? It's yeah, it's interesting, right?
tell us
Well, it's not going away, right? So,
no.
the all of my English teacher friends, right? Uh, um, we at first when AI, this is all plagiarism. This is, we how can we combat this, right? You know, these aren't their voices, right? They're completely copying. They're just putting in the prompts to a chat to ChatGPT or one of the big AI companies, right? And they're getting a whole essay. Now, a good educator that's worth their salt can determine that this is not this is not your voice, this is not your writing, right?
Yeah, because the language is also in a specific, it's kind of bland. I mean, it has like, it doesn't have the majority.
You'd be surprised though, like if you feed it the correct parameters,
Oh,
right? It'll pop
right,
out, yeah, yeah,
right,
it'll pop
right.
out something that's really strong, right? So like I was teaching, I'm trying to embrace it, right? I have
Also have
like
to.
Yeah, there's no getting around it, right? So, but how do you embrace it in a writing class, right? So, there's different um I'm thinking of different ways to actually use it as a tool instead of banning it altogether, like so yeah, there's a lot of the modern classroom is changing, right?
Yes,
Ver um,
rapidly.
so fast. Postmodern classroom. So, with the cell phones and the computer in the classroom, right? At first I embraced it 100%. Like when I was like, "This is gonna have to make copies, the paper, everything be done on digital, right? This is brilliant, right?" But then you have, then you reach a point where the kids are just not using their own. They're not building up their own critical thinking, right? They're just pulling up everything. They're googling everything. They're plagiarizing, right? And then the phones in the classroom, right? I don't know if you spoke to educators about, that dilemma. It's a big issue. The kids are addicted to their devices.
Well, I've seen it. I mean, teaching mindfulness like on your phone. It's like, yo, that's not possible. Get off that.
Impossible. Get off that. Yeah.
You know. Listen, we're suffering from that. I suffer from it. Imagine, and I grew up as a free homie without any of that. It's super addictive
Yep.
for all of us. Nobody escapes it. So I
Nobody
completely
escapes
get,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yes. Think the adolescent brain that's still developing, right?
Yes, until
NBA go.
25. I mean, thank God there's neuroplasticity forever, but yes,
Yeah. Sure.
yes,
Right. And
very important point. I was thinking as you were speaking about prompting and the correct questions, the only hope that it just occurred to me, and I wonder what you think of that, because you have to ask the right questions, right? So it's kind of interesting because when we ask the right questions, usually the mind, the nature of the mind, even without, even in the subconscious level, it seeks for the right answers, even if it's from a machine or not. So I'm wondering if that's going to, so there's like that little thing that was like, oh, well, that's a good one, being able to ask good questions.
So as you're saying that, I'm thinking of a lesson, right? So, right, to generate questions. So generate questions and then answers, and then compare the bot's answers to your answers, and which one do you prefer? All right. So there you go. All right, that's a lesson right there.
That's a major lesson right there. I want to take
You-
that class.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I'm teaching speech and communications this year, so that's always a fun class.
I'm going to come to your class, man. I love it so much. Oh, what do you think will help educators or the system? Yeah, is that a good question?
No, no. In the current uh environment, and or what do you think will help us?
Yeah, like for you, what would be like, what would help your classrooms? Like what could come, okay, you're showing up with all this like desire and effort and presence, right? Because you're talking about presence. When you're creating trust, you can't have trust if you don't have presence. Number, and you're here, right? So trust requires me and you to be present right here.
Present.
That's the only way, right?
That's 100%. Yeah.
Which is an incredible tool, right?
That,
So you're doing that.
you're right. So it's gonna be like taking off a band-aid, Agni. I'm actually I'm reverting back to the old way. So I'm going to employ, like, kids are gonna start writing again, with a pen, with a pencil. They're gonna have
Love it.
paper. They're gonna have paper again, right? So there'll be times, but for the most part, they're gonna be taking notes, and they're gonna be doing it the old way, right? And then, we'll be introduced, so it'll be a combination of both, right? The technology's there, of course I'm gonna use it, right? But on a regular basis, we have to take off the Band-Aid, there'll be no digital for the first, no digital for a while, right? Until we start getting, like you said, to be present.
Yep.
Because there's so many distractions when you have a computer in front of you or a phone in front of you.
Absolutely.
I think this conversation is sort of, where I'm going this year, because this last year with my 11th graders was one of the worst years of my, with us. Yeah, with the phones. The addiction is palpable, right? Even the good students couldn't help. And if you don't have a school that an administration that supports you, which I don't in Rochelle, unfortunately, you, in terms of a policy, a phone policy that's that's helpful for the teachers and the students, right? At the current situation, they say there's no phones aren't allowed in the classroom, but they're not helping us, in any way to, to enforce that rule,
Right.
So the kids come into class with their phones, and, like, and they're on them,
Right.
All right, so I
Well, you're teaching. Right.
so getting back to what you said about being present, I think that's monumental, all right, into establishing trust. You can't build you have to be present first, right, and respect each other's, you know, voice in order to build that trust, and then in order to build from there. Once that's established, then of course we can integrate all sorts of um modalities, right? All sorts of methods of teaching and learning, of consuming information, or spitting out information, reading and writing. But yeah, that's where I'm going this year. I'm going to be reverting back to the college rule notebooks, right? Five, you know, and they're going to be taking notes every day until they're going to be present every day. Yeah, that's where I'm going this year. I'm gonna see if it works.
I think it's brilliant. And why? Because I'm familiar with studies about neuroplasticity and how it encourages creativity when, because we evolve like that, number one, when we write, when there's the physical connection
Yeah.
of paper, pen, pencil, and the thought process and using the body.
Right.
So I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. I'm reverting back, Agni. Absolutely.
Is this, out of curiosity, is the school giving you the perimeters for this, or is this out of your will?
Um, yeah, no, I have autonomy, right, to establish a policy in my classroom, right? So yeah, in terms of the phone policy, they have it in writing, they just don't help us um enforce it, right?
Right. I mean, that's
I'm not and I don't want to. How am I building trust if I'm constantly, being the enforcer of law,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, so, but do I have? Yes, I have the autonomy in my classroom. I close the door, and it's we set up a ground rules together, and we build off of that. So yes, the answer to your question is I do have the autonomy to do that.
Uh, does every educator have that, or are they restricted? I'm just curious.
In my school, well, I can only speak to my to the ELA department. Um, our chairperson is very good. She allows us to she gives us the autonomy, right? So there's certain things that they want to see. You know, that's uh there everyone, again, going back to our original discussion about ideas, right? Everybody's giving us ideas that utilize this idea and you'll be able to do this, use this, and you can do this. This is a great, use this graphic organizer and wow, you'll be amazed, right? Yeah, okay, that's all great, right? I can put it in my toolbox, but like the ones that you create, right? The authentic assessments and the authentic lessons that you've created, um, because it's your own, right? You're passionate about it, right? It's real. It's your own.
It's your own language. I mean, what you're teaching to the kids, this is what I mean about a life tool. That's how you do anything in life.
Inspire, right? Inspire, the Latin, right? Inspire, right? You inspire people. Basically, all that is a flame. The inspire is the breath, right? So, how do you light a fire? You have to breathe on it, right? And then it blows, it blossoms, right? So if I want to inspire, I'm gonna breathe on the fire, right? Inspire, the breath, and then they take the fire and then they're lit up, right? And then they do it to the next person and the next person. It's like passing a candle, passing a candle, or lighting a candle. Everyone has a candle that they're lighting. So in order for you to really light that fire, it has to come from you, or you have to be passionate about it. And I love, like, some of the authors, some of the essays, that I teach these kids I'm so passionate about this language, and I'm like, well, this was amazing what this writer just said, right? With this voice, listen to her voice. And I think it's contagious, right? So you know how the neurotransmitters work. It's electricity. So like when teaching is like that, right? So think of it as a electrical circuit, right? If I say something that's inspired, right, inspired, it's an electrical burst, right, and their neurotransmitters grab it, right. So it's sort of like, it's like an electrical circuit. So it's really interesting. I love the science behind, like you were mentioning, neurodivergency, and also
Yes.
yeah, So yeah, I think there's physics behind this.
You think it's a fact. I mean, there's physics in everything in this world.
Yeah. So do you
The art
agree with?
physics.
I think we're proving it, right? So if you were like in agreement with what I said, right? That means you caught my fire, right? And you said, "Oh, that lit up a fire in me."
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, just as violence, I mean, we're seeing violence has spread rapidly here. I think kindness could spread rapidly. I think education could spread rapidly. I mean, I'm super involved in that and believe that everybody, it's like basic human right for youth to be educated. Not like an adult for sure. Like it's so basic, like from reading a prescription medication, like really basic things that one can take. But poverty and no education are completely linked. Besides the political that happen, of course, and wars and so on. But
Or displacement. Yeah, of course. I mean,
in general, it's completely connected. The science
where
behind.
in the U.S., if we look at the U.S., right? Because I mean, you know, I pray for the countries that are in wartime. You know, like a disruption in education is like it's the last thing on their mind, right? Surviving.
Absolutely.
Y-
Or no education at all because it's too freaking poor.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying here. Why that shouldn't be happening here, but it is. And everyone has a conspiracy theory that it's a great plan to keep people in the dark, right? And I'm always like reluctant to even embrace a conspiracy theory, right? But like the more and more as an educator, the more I see it, the policies in action, because we're on the ground, right? We're the boots on the
Right.
ground in terms of educators are the soldiers, right? On
Absolutely. My heroes, man. That's what I'm saying.
lack of a better metaphor, right? But
It's heroes.
in terms of policies, right? Have you ever read Sherman Alexie's Superman and Me?
No.
You keep yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. Uh, he wrote an essay about breaking down doors, like Superman. When he was a child, he saw a comic book where, that was his first experience of reading, right? It was this Superman breaking down doors, right? And that's what he espoused this vision for himself, right? To be Superman, to break down doors, right? So he would go to res classrooms, classrooms in the reservation, right? And he would visit them, and he's trying to elicit some inspiration. He's trying to inspire them too, these little Native American kids, to become writers and readers too, right? So he's trying to break down the metaphorical door. So you keep saying about superheroes. I think you should read that essay. It's really cool. It's a great.
Send it to me. I will. Doors of perception. That's what I'm thinking of. Hux's doors of perceptions opening up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
No, I don't know where I was at. I well, no, that's cool.
This is so great. Like what we're talking about, this is education, opening people's minds up.
I don't, I've been off for the summer and I didn't work this summer. So like I kind of, yeah, in a way. Uh, I didn't do much in terms of, sharpening the old, the stone up there. So I've been reading, of course, but, to get, now that it's August, almost the beginning of the new school year, right? Just talking about it's nice, right? Going into the new year with a fresh perspective. Um, trying to activate the things, put it to action, the things we were talking about in terms of being present, in terms of building that trust. But before we can build that trust, how do we get there? We have to not be distracted, right? We have to be present in each other's lives, with the safe ground rules. And so I'm thinking of the first few days of school, the first week of school, and how am I going to, put this into action. Um, so yeah, I have a plan, but I just have to, you know, I have to kind of, the paradigm is shifting again. So I have to sort of, um, build a plan, which is what I do. Yeah. We build plans every day.
Yeah, and I think you're natural. I mean, just showing up with these intentions, it's wonderful. I would even,
A lot of prep.
huh?
Yeah. There's a lot of prep that every lesson, like from the beginning, 45 minutes. All right. So first I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, and then the kids are gonna do this, and then they're gonna talk about this. All right. And hopefully at the end I can learn that I can see that they got it. So Yeah.
Right,
Every day.
right, right.
So
You know,
when you talk,
Chris, I'm a very big advocate for bringing mindfulness, and mindfulness could be 1 second, 1 minute of like one deep breath. Well, five would be ideal because it really gathers you. You know, that I think all classrooms, it doesn't even take a minute just to gather oneself. And we've seen incredible results from the feedback, right? It's not just my thought process, because if it was just my thought process, I would just be an artist. But I did get into education through my own son and because of the suicide epidemic and so on. And we have seen amazing results. So just and you're already practicing that, but just even bringing that stability of gathering oneself is really amazing.
well, I would appreciate you to send me some techniques because I don't do that enough. I'm missing that from my classroom. Like to ground to, to get grounded before we start.
Absolutely, because you get grounded. I mean, this is a personal thing, right? And I don't care if you're 5 years old, 10, 50, it works. It's just, everything is pulling us outside.
Yeah.
This is the world we're living in. So and to be able to comprehend and be present right here, I got to come here.
Yeah.
I got to have the trust that I am this entity, right? Because trust is trusting you, but in reflection to that, I'm trusting myself ultimately.
So, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And how do you get to a place where that process can begin? And that's the grounding, right?
Right, but and it could be done just with deep breaths. Like a count of 4 in inhalation, holding 4, exhaling 6.
And it would take what a matter of 1 minute, 2 minutes, if that.
That's like a minute.
Right, a minute.
But try it right now.
Would I do it to I'm envisioning applying like a mindfulness technique, which I always it's always on the back burner. It's like, I see some colleagues that do this, right? And I always say, well, that's something that I hate, that I've always thought of, but I just never really do because I'm always like I feel like I'm pressed for time. But I think it's extremely important.
It expends time. This is what happens with this. I know that people are always like, I don't have time, but this is what happens when we get focused.
Right.
It's shorter, like for whatever you need, you use much shorter time. Like
Yeah.
I see it in my work week, things that when I'm not focused take like drag out, procrastination, blah, 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 chaos, all these things that happen in the mind. And they happen for all of us. But when I'm focused, it's like half an hour. Oh, or it could take a month. I mean, it's crazy. It really compresses time. And I could do a technique right now with you. It's that simple. Like, it's not even that complicated. And you're bringing up some important things that I'm going to put on the webpage to really assist any classroom, right? So it's like the students, are you willing?
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, we just do it together. We come in the classroom, we're sitting down. If we close your eyes, if you don't want to close your eyes, soft gaze in front of you,
All right.
right? So we go there and we start an inhalation. It's inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold.
So it's 4 to 6, right?
It's 4, 4, 6. The inhalation is longer. When the inhalation is longer, it relaxes the body. You do 3 of these, and you could do it on your own. You just come up and you're here. Everything settles.
Yeah, I practice breathing techniques to alleviate when I'm off, to center myself. I do practice them.
It's the same thing.
Right, right.
You know what?
But to incorporate it, to be part of their expectations. They know that they're going to do this every day.
Every day when they come in the room, when they come
Um,
and and everybody sits down, you sit down. If you do five of these, listen, 10, they're comatose. Because I swear to God, listen, I've been teaching mindfulness. Like people, it's like, oh, I got ADHD, whatever. The classicism, autism. Brother had all classes. It's like, oh, I got this. I'm like, I have all that. Multiply it. Like if it works on me, it could work on you. For sure. 10, you comatose them. Do 5. It takes us in a minute. That's all. And then you open your eyes. And you know what it does? Talking about electricity. Now you unified the classroom.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
you unified the classroom because it's just us creativity. When you're arts, right? Writing, visual. I mean, I always do visuals, dancing, anything unifies the community, transcending. Oh, I'm a nerd. I'm this. It doesn't fucking matter. Excuse
It's
me.
a communal experience. So I've always said, no, seriously. Whenever a visual artist, right, when you're surrounded by other visual artists in a room with light, right, you're gonna create something much more, more beautiful, right? So yeah, it's a
You're just gonna create from being like, I can't create. I can't draw. I can't do anything. You know what I make my kids do? I've been on this for a few years, and that's because gratitude, like about, I guess, 9 years ago, something after a serious trauma, I really incorporated it because I couldn't move forward, and really incorporated. So anything I do creative with my kids, my classes, and I don't care if they're educators, because I also do educators or schools. What do you love? It's like, oh, I can't draw, I can't do this. I'm like, I don't care. Like, what do you love? Just record, like, whatever it is. Like, if you can't draw it, good. By the way, I draw like a smiley face or a little heart, like that ridiculous, right? It's not ridiculous. It's symbolism, right? What do you love? It's like, oh, I don't know, but I don't know. I can draw. What do you love? And I don't care what that is. It could be your dog, your cat, it could be your neighbor, it could be your mom, your dad, it could be your best friend.
what right. What do you love? Yeah.
What do you love? Why? Because it's getting that neuroplasticity, that mindset on what do I hate? Because we always are all thinking how horrible everything is. This is the nature of the brain. So what we because it wants to preserve, right? So it's natural. It's also understanding that. But it's like, what do you love? Now, when I'm thinking about what I love and really feel it in my heart, I'm in a different state.
No, you're right. That's
It's not
interesting.
simple. Like,
Oh,
it's like, we need PhDs, this and that. No, you don't. What you need is common sense. What you need is to be loving and caring. And once you have that, that's what everybody needs. Like, yeah, we're all different, but you know what? We're all humans. And we all have blood inside of us, and inside we all look the same. And actually, we function the same, unless you're a psychopath. So there is a percentage, and good for, whatever. There's a space for that too in this world. But most of us are not. It's a small percentage, right? So training the brain, like, yeah, things are difficult. Things don't look good. That's why we're bombarded with. I'm not good enough, right? Especially teenagers. Besides that, we all go through this. So I have deep compassion for this and understanding. It's like, I'm not good enough, right?
you
I'm not
as in,
tall, fat, thin, whatever it is.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned the traumatic experience that you went through. And I think I know what it was. It was the neighbor, right?
Yes.
The incident with the neighbor. Yeah. Well, but I have a similar story as well with my nephew who uh took his own life. And
The little one.
yeah, Danny. Yeah. And
Oh, man. I didn't know it was a suicide, Chris.
yeah, it was. And so I always, when I have kids, like I had, when I have kids, I'm very aware of that they think that that's an option, and
Yeah.
so it's part of my experience, my life experience, but I haven't been able to transform it into a way of helping, right? Because that's my incentive.
And this is 12, 13, 13, 14 years ago. Um, And I was doing it like that when the guy, which is 10 years going on 11 now, that suicide that happened. I wrote the curriculum and I was like, this is going out to educators. And I got super serious about Make Kids, which stands for Mindfulness Arts Yoga. I mean, those are my principles because they've been around, but anything could be substituted except the mindfulness and the creativity, which is the arts. And I'll take anything as art. It doesn't have to be visual. I use visual because I just love that. But I've used dancing, we've used singing, we've used writing, right? Gratitude writing, serious practice. You do that with your kids just once. Get them on that. You're gonna have a different class within a week. Gratitude writing. What are you thankful for? Oh, I hate life. Everything's terrible. Listen, I understand that. I've been there. It's like, yeah, but there is something. What is it? Find it.
So
Find it.
Agni, you're giving me different ways to apply mindfulness, right? So you've the breathing, gratitude writing.
Yeah, I mean, as a leader in your class, my God, training those kids, and there's so much science backing this up. I mean, I used to do it before the science, honestly, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now I enjoy it because it's like, there's science backing it for our schools, our society's good. I love it. And I love understanding the biochemistry of humanity because we're biochemical creatures.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Chris, I mean, if your school is open to, I will come in and do classes or one workshop
I get
with your
get you.
educators.
You have a mission statement. You probably have you have the organization has an introduction letter and things of that nature.
Yeah, we have it all.
All right, so then yeah, forward it to the administration, forward it to me, and I'll bring it up.
Done. Just like these are the principles, honey, like that you could take and use in your class. And it doesn't interfere with anything. What it does is it makes this trust and celebration of individuality. All of a sudden, we're honoring whoever's present, to be whatever they're doing. And it takes like minutes. It's nothing. It doesn't take from any curriculum. It just expands time.
Yeah, no, I'm going to incorporate it. I'm going to try to incorporate it this year.
Listen, any questions, you get in touch with me. I love it. I'll guide you through anything and I'll create something for you. Honestly, a little video, something.
Yeah, I'm also just thinking of applying mindfulness techniques in the beginning of the class every day, maybe every couple every you know
Every day, 1 minute, 1 minute.
breathing, yeah, the breathing every day, but also like
Honey, just count. How many seconds does it take to take a
you
breath?
convinced me, Agni. You don't.
If you do 10, they'll be like comatose in a deep meditation. So don't go that deep.
All right, I don't want to go that deep. No,
Anything else you want to add?
thanks, Ag. It's awesome seeing you, baby.
Baby, you're a superhero to so many young people. I was positive. I didn't say this to begin with, but I love your writing. I always did. I even acted in one of your little films back in college. And I can't wait to read your novel.
Yeah, it'll happen.
I know it will.
All right, Agni, love you.
So much love. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ag. You're the best. Love you.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you.